And we are live for another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-host Andrew Johnson. And Johnson, we go into another week here on the All Gas No Break Sports Show with another Super Show as we recap tonight the semifinal of the college football playoff, as well as recapping what went down in the wild card weekend in the NFL postseason, while also breaking down some extra coach moves that happened during the week. So a lot to break down here on the show tonight. And we go into this week now with a national championship game this upcoming Monday. We have the divisional round of the NFL postseason coming up this weekend. So a lot to look forward to coming up.
And yeah, let's just get started, Nick. Kick us off.
Yeah, I think we got started with the first game that happened in college football, and that was the first semifinal game, that being the Fiesta Bowl matchup between Miami going up against Ole Miss. And what a game it was between these two teams. I mean, they were trading back and forth punches. It was a really entertaining contest from these two sides, and it gave some very memorable moments towards the end of the game. You know, it looked like towards the end, Ole Miss I was going to pull off some magic once again, and what has been a sensational ride for them. Trinidad Chambliss making big plays when necessary, but it was Carson Beck who, has had a really up and down collegiate career. Of course, has won some I think he won a national championship with Georgia as a backup. I don't think he was a starter when Stetson Bennett was there. But regardless of that, either way, Beck getting pretty much ridiculed and being viewed as a scapegoat of what happened last season for the Bulldogs, got injured before the college football playoff, transfers to Miami, an up and down year for the Canes. They obviously lose two games during the regular season. Doesn't look like they're going to make the college football playoff. They're the last team into the playoff, and now they're playing for the national championship because Carson Beck scores the game-winning touchdown with under 20 seconds left. Miami wins the Fiesta Bowl 31-27 of Ole Miss. So the Rebels' magical run comes to an end in what was a thrilling contest. Trinidad Chambliss, unfortunately, his collegiate career comes to an end as well. And Carson Beck will play one more game of his collegiate career before more than likely going into the NFL draft, as Miami will play for the national championship. And Johnson, they will have the benefactor of playing at their own home stadium for that national championship game.
Yeah, tickets went as high. Pretty much the get-in price for the last time I looked was over $3,000, and I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's kind of stayed that way. But yeah, let's talk about Carson Beck a little bit. He was the scapegoat for Georgia. He had a fantastic 2023 campaign, and but before we kind of go into this a little bit, he's a 6-year senior. Like this is crazy. He's got the COVID year. He's a redshirt year. He didn't really play in 2021, and then he started getting reps a year or two after that. But yeah, he's only this is really his only third year as a full time starter, and he's rewritten his own book because he looked like the prince that was promised, and at Georgia, and he never really never came to fruition for him. And at Miami, it looks like he can be king of the world too. He's a Florida native too. I know it's not playing for a university up in Jacksonville. That would be a more so maybe the Florida Gators. That's that part of the country. I know it's in Gainesville, so it's a little
Gainesville,
closer
yep.
to Jacksonville. So that would have been the university for him. But hey, to still potentially win a national title for your home state, that's crazy. And especially
Yeah.
at home too, at your home stadium. That would be the you can't write that better. And
Yeah.
I do want to say
Yeah.
one thing about Ole Miss, though. I know you're gonna have a lot to say, Nick, but I believe that Lane Kiffin really sabotaged them once again, recalling coaches 24 hours before this game even started. That's just diabolical. Like the way he just conducted himself during this entire process is shameful. And I hope LSU never wins a game ever again. I hope they lose their bye games.
Yeah. You were hoping that they almost would move on so that they
I
would
did.
have.
I thought it would have been a great story that
Yeah.
could have overcame the odds of this really terrible situation. To put it lightly, Lane Kiffin is against them, poaching all of their coaches, trying to poach players, and all this chaos is ensuing. Meanwhile, these kids are just looking for a national championship. So, really shady backroom dark alley tactics by Lane Kiffin, lowest of low human beings, almost like algae loathing pond scum.
And keep in mind too, they are going to be having a whole new system because with Trinidad Chambliss now not being able to get that 6th-year eligibility, he has to probably go to the NFL draft. We'll see where he goes. It's going to be tough considering he wasn't the starter to begin the season. He kind of got into there, I think, around week 3 or week 4. So he won't be a high draft pick, but I'm going to assume a team will take a flyer on him during the NFL draft. Ole Miss now having to move on. I believe Deuce Knight, the Auburn transfer, who was a former 5-star quarterback, is going to be a guy that will more than likely be competing for the starting job next season for Ole Miss. So we'll see what he does there. Lane Kiffin even got himself a transfer quarterback as well. He got Sam Levitt from Arizona State, so that was a big get for the Tigers. But being lost, I didn't mention Miami. I mean, it's been a wild ride for them because we mentioned it last week. This is a team that hasn't won the national championship since 2001. They went to the national championship game back in 2002. And if you remember, Johnson, it was the Fiesta Bowl in Arizona that they lost that controversial national championship game to Ohio State. So for them to get that payback back, so many years later and winning in the way they did, Beck showed flashes in this game. Mark Fletcher Jr. with a great rushing attack. You had a great performances from Malachi Tony and Keelan Marion. And now they get to play for the national championship at their home stadium. But the problem is, Johnson, it will kind of segue into the next game that we have. They're pretty much going up against a juggernaut, it seems like, right now, in the Indiana Hoosiers, who, from the opening play, pretty much dominated the Oregon Ducks in this matchup in the Peach Bowl. A pick six to open the game. Oregon responded with a touchdown their next drive, but after Oregon responded from that point, Johnson, it was all Indiana from there on in. They beat the Ducks 56-22 in the Peach Bowl. They're going to play for the national championship against Miami. And what's really been impressive has been what, Fernando Mendoza, who of course is going to be the number 1 overall draft pick, the Heisman Trophy winner this past season. He has just been sensational this entire postseason run so far for Indiana. Another big performance for him in this game. 17-20, 177 yards, 5 passing touchdowns. If I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to remember his stats from the week prior. I think he has just 6 incompletions in his last 5 incompletions. I just looked at it now. He has 5 incompletions his last 2 games, 8 passing touchdowns against Alabama and Oregon. And now, if you're Miami, this is a team that's been well known for what their defense has been doing for the majority of the season. But they have a really tall task to face in Mendoza in this national championship game.
Yeah, you mentioned the draft, Nick, and I know what Fernando Mendoza is going number 1 overall. And if it doesn't go number 1 overall, I don't
Has
know.
to.
I
Has
don't know
to.
what happened, especially if the Raiders have a needed quarterback. I do want to mention Trinidad Chambliss for a second here because we did mention him as a possible draft pick when it comes to the maybe not a high draft pick, but someone will take a flyer on
No.
him. This is my thing, Nick. And I know it's the age thing in the NFL, whatever, but Anthony Richardson played 12 games at Florida.
Right.
He wasn't even all that good in 12 games at Florida. He was okay.
Yeah.
His mechanics weren't really that great. And Trinidad Chambliss plays 13 games at Ole Miss at the same level. It's the same conference, the same
Yep.
quality of games. Goes further than him. And pass-wise,
Yeah,
he looks
listen,
fantastic.
I don't disagree with you. It's
Scrambling-wise, he's not as good.
It's a weird,
I just don't understand
sequence that
also,
this is all happening.
if they're going to give the
Trent
JUCO guys,
Dad probably should get a lot more recognition. And listen, maybe a team decides on it because we'll discuss the other news coming out of this game too, with the other side being Oregon, because that does play a ripple effect into what happens in the NFL draft this upcoming April. But I just look at I think we have before we go into that. I think we have to really we dove into this last week, and maybe we dive into it again this week. But Cignetti has just been an incredible head coach for this program, and the fact that he's got them now 1 win away from a national championship, they've done so much tremendous work, and now all they need to do, they are 1 win away from getting the program's first national championship in its entire university's history. And the other storyline coming out of this game too for Fernando Mendoza is he'll get to play against Miami. And if you remember, he was a kid that was a Miami recruit, not a high recruit coming out of Miami, but he wanted to play for the Miami Hurricanes, and they never really, looked towards him during that time. He goes to play at Cal. He transfers to Indiana, and now we talked about it. He's the Heisman Trophy winner, going to be the projected number one overall pick this upcoming April, and now he's got a chance to beat his own home state favorite team in Miami this upcoming Monday.
Yeah, it's going to be a storybook, and I can't believe you're calling Indiana this indispensable juggernaut. That
I
is a
know.
crazy sentence, but you're not wrong because no team looks close against them.
No,
Even Oregon had at
Ohio
least a
State was the
chance
closest
here.
team, and that was it.
Yeah, and Ohio State didn't even look close either. They got
And you know
embarrassed
what?
too.
Yeah, and then the
This
funny
is the
thing is,
closest thing that we
Indiana
have right now to like 2022 or 2020. I'm sorry,
2020
2023
LSU.
UConn.
Oh, I thought you were going to the football round. Yeah, no,
Because
maybe
LSU still had close games. They were dominant, but they still had close game. But from an
Indiana did too, though. To be fair, this season, because remember they
I mean,
almost lost to
towards
Penn
down the
State
stretch, though. Down the
and they
stretch.
lost to
Down the
Iowa.
stretch.
Right? Yeah, that's fair.
Because yeah, that UConn team. I know it's college basketball had tests early on, but no team other than St. John's touched them like the last month of the season, and that was they didn't even make the tournament. So UConn just went on that run where no one even looked competitive, and Indiana's been on this run where no one looks competitive either.
Right.
They might be better than that 2020 LSU team. They might.
It,
As crazy as it
I,
sounds, it's a
yeah,
real
it's tough.
conversation. You have to have the
It's tough. It is
conversation.
a conversation. It's tough though because that LSU team was unbelievable. Um, I think what also looking at this Indiana team too is they still have to win like 100 something games in a row just to finally get a 500 for their program's history in football, which is I think the craziest stat of it all. Because what I saw, what's funny about this team is that, and what's funny about this national championship game is the stat I saw just 2 years ago, Johnson. I don't know if you knew this. You might have saw this on Twitter. You might not have seen this on Twitter. 2 years ago, Rutgers beat both of these teams that season, and they beat them by a combined score of I think it was like 62-38. And now 2 years later, these are the two teams playing for the national championship. It just goes to show you what these two programs have done in 2 years' time. Signetti was at James Madison 2 years ago. Takes the Indiana job when they were 2-10. He's got them in the national championship game, and it's been a long run for Mario Cristobal after leaving Oregon. Comes to Miami. It took a little bit of time, but he's finally got the Hurricanes back on the national map, and now one went away from a championship.
The crazy thing for Mariavella was if he didn't make the playoffs, right? If they get screwed out of the playoffs, do you think he actually goes on the hot seat? Like, do you think that's a realm
Oh
of
yeah,
possibility?
because
So
remember,
that's the
yeah,
big that's gonna be one of the biggest butterfly effects of all time.
because remember what happened last season. I think it was either last season or the year prior to that. I don't remember. I think last year definitely. They had two losses. I believe one of them was that game against Georgia Tech where all they had to do was take a knee. That might have been the year prior, I'm thinking of. But regardless, last year they had the game against Syracuse at the end of the season, and all they had to do was win, and they're in the CFP. They lose that game. They don't make the CFP. They don't make the ACC championship game because of it. I think the year prior was the game against, I believe it was Georgia Tech or Pitt, where all they had to do was just take a knee and they win the game. They decide to run the football. They fumble. They give up a scoop and score. They lose, and that costs them an ACC title berth opportunity. So to think that, yeah, if they missed it this year, considering that they beat Miami at the beginning, or not Miami, they beat Notre Dame at the beginning of the year, and there was really not much big time competition in the ACC this season because it was pretty much wide open considering how the conference was. But then they lose to Louisville at home because of Carson Beck throwing, I think, 4 interceptions in that game. They lose on the road to SMU and another bad performance with Beck. And since those games have happened, Beck has really not been, great, but he's been good enough just to win these games for them. And, last week we talked about it. He didn't have to do much in that win for Miami over Ohio State to get the job done. In this game, he had to do that because if not for him, they would not have won that game. But credit to, Miami also is that, we've had to mention it in that game. They dropped 5 interceptions against Trinidad Chambliss. They probably could have won that game by 20 something points, but they kept Ole Miss in the game because they couldn't make a catch on an interception. So that's besides the point. I think the problem for them in this game, Johnson, is that they can't make those same mistakes If Fernando Mendoza gives you an opportunity to make an interception, they've got to capitalize on it because they're not going to have a chance if they don't do so.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So,
I think
Nick,
let's break
let's.
down the game.
I mean,
Oh, actually, before we break
we
down the
got to talk
game,
about
yeah,
that
I forgot about that.
return. Dante
Yes,
Moore staying in the.
yeah,
It's not staying in the draft. He's staying in college.
yeah, and that's a big ripple effect because remember they got Dylan Raiola from Nebraska to transfer there just about I think a week prior or a couple days prior to that. So yeah, Dante Moore, who is projected to be the number 2 overall pick in the draft, is going back to Oregon to try to see if maybe they can win a national championship next year. So Raiola, it looks like, is going to be waiting a season to finally be the quarterback at the Ducks. But it creates a big ripple effect because Oregon, of course, now is going to be in a good spot again next year where they have a good quarterback at helm. But now for the NFL, I mean, you talked about Trinidad Chambliss earlier. There is really not a clear cut number 2 best quarterback coming into this NFL draft now. It's Mendoza and then the rest at this point. There is no quarterback where if you're a team like the Jets or the Raiders are going to have a pick, but if you're the team like the Browns, the Cardinals, the Dolphins, like you are going to have to look at some NFL, veteran backup that hasn't really played as much, or you might have to take a flyer on a guy like Chambliss or someone else in the draft coming up this April. It really, I don't know if I don't want to say it shocked me fully, but no offense to the Jets fans, it probably came down to, do I want to play one more year and get the money at Oregon that I can get at least from the Jets in year one, or do I just want to go to the NFL now? I think it was just too much to give up. With we know how Oregon's NIL funds are with them being owned by Nike and stuff, so that probably played a factor into it.
Yes. Now Dylan Raiola is going to ride the pine for a year. Can you take a redshirt year? Is it too late for
Hey,
him? I
remember,
don't know.
keep in mind, Dante Moore did the same thing at UCLA. He took a year off. He transferred from UCLA to Oregon, and he waited 1 year because he was the backup to Dylan Gabriel. So they're trying to do the exact same thing. So I don't necessarily hate the idea, but I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of stunned that he went back. I thought maybe he would say, you know what, how can I pass up a year on the NFL? But with the NIL now going around, I guess that's really more of a possibility now these days for players to do this. So he goes back, and we'll see who the Jets and the rest of the NFL take in the upcoming draft. But there's probably going to just be one quarterback taken in the first round. I don't see another one again taken. I guess what,
Yeah,
Ty Simpson's the second best by
it's Ty
default, but
Simpson. He's
it's
going to be the
not.
second.
Yeah,
He'll
it's
get
not good.
picked.
You think he's not going to be that high?
He'll be a first round pick. Someone will
Do
take
you
a
really think
flyer.
he's a first round pick?
Did you think Jackson Darvin's going to be a first round pick?
No.
So expect the
I could. You
unexpected.
know what? I could see the Steelers maybe taking a flyer on him.
There you go.
I could see something like that. And we'll see. We'll talk about the Steelers later on in the show, but let's go into the final mushing hour of this college football season, Johnson. It is, of course, the national championship game that will be played on Monday night in Miami. It's a big matchup. It is number 10 Miami, number 1 Indiana. It's totally the national championship game everyone had at the beginning of the season. I'm stunned people did not have this matchup when the season started. But nonetheless, the Hurricanes come in as a big underdog in this one, Johnson, despite being at home. They are an 8.5 point underdog in this game with the over under at 48.5.
Yeah, man. I don't know. This is a tough one. I'm gonna take Miami to
I
cover.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Miami to cover. I think 8.5 at home. That's way too many points. Even though they have at least 20,000 plus
I
fans there.
mean,
I'm talking about Indiana,
yeah.
one of the largest alumni. I think the largest living alumni network in the country. Miami's got to take this. Miami plus 8.5.
Well, remember, Indiana's closest loss as of late was the closest win was the Ohio State Big Ten championship. And remember when they played Ohio State, being Miami, it was a 10.5 point spread. I think in that game, I think everyone was looking at it like this: like Ohio State's just a well-oiled machine. Their offense is going to finally start clicking again, and Miami's defense is going to have no shot. Miami's defense is going to have to be the reason they stay alive in this game because they are facing an Indiana defense that's been so good this season, and they have to force Mendoza to do something that he hasn't really been doing all season. That's forcing mistakes. So that's where I don't know. I'm having a really tough read on the game in terms of that. I think just because I really haven't seen any flaws from this Indiana team for the last couple months, as much as 8.5 is a lot, and I do agree it is a lot, I'll take the Hoosiers to cover the 8.5 and win their first national championship in program history. Um, it's just not a Cinderella run. It's a movie script type ending if Indiana gets it done this season, considering where they were just a couple years ago to now to from being the laughing stock of the Power Five schools to now being the powerhouse potentially of the Power Five schools. If they start a dynasty with this first national championship, you don't know where Indiana football could be from here on in. I think this could be the catalyst and the starting point for what could be something that we talk about for years and years to come.
Oh, the last year was the starting point. That was the catalyst for me when
That's
they
true.
even made some
That's true.
noise. They're here now. This would be the stamp on it. This would
Right.
be
And
the
remember,
satisfaction.
everyone's considered the last year a fluke because they beat nobody last season. The one time they played somebody was Ohio State. They got blown out. Then they played Notre Dame in the playoff. They got blown out. So I mean that's why I think everyone was not expecting this to happen again this season, and they just blew everyone's expectations out of the window. Like it's just been an incredible run for them. So I would like to see them get the job done. As much as I would like to see Miami also win it, I'm perfectly. It's kind of fitting, Johnson, because last year
I didn't
we
want
had
either team.
we didn't want either of those teams to win the national championship. I am perfectly content with either one of these teams winning the
I'm just gonna
title
be
on
able to
Monday.
enjoy football, and I'm
Right,
hoping the same way it's gonna be for the Super Bowl this year. Just
exactly.
enjoy some football. That's
So
what I
our
want.
last picks of the year for college football, you have Miami covering the 8.5. Do you think they win, or do you have Indiana winning?
I think they cover, but Indiana wins.
Indiana, okay. Okay. And then I have Indiana covering. I just listen. I will. It would be incredible if they get the job done. That's all I'll say about that. If they get the job done, incredible, incredible job. So we'll see what happens from there on in. But you talk about the Super Bowl, Johnson. Let's go into now the first stages of getting to that Super Bowl, and that is the NFL wildcard weekend that we just had. And outside of the last two games of the wildcard weekend, we had an incredible week of action. Back and forth affairs, last second finishes, and leading to some great moments. And it started off on Saturday with the Panthers giving the Rams everything that they possibly could in that game against LA, in a game where they were down, I think it was 14 points or 17 points. The Panthers fighting their way to come back, make it a game. They score a late touchdown from Jalen Coker with about 2 minutes left, but that was just enough time for Matthew Stafford to go down the field. They get the game-winning touchdown to Colby Parkinson with 40 seconds left. The Rams hang on and win a thriller 34-31. They move on to the divisional round. We'll break down that divisional round matchup later on in the show. But Johnson, a very good start to the wild card weekend with that game.
I mean, I don't know what to really say about this wild card weekend because I mean, how do I even kind of put? I mean, this is what I'm gonna say. I think as soon as I had the ball back with some time, I thought that was it. I mean, it was. I said it too. Okay, like whatever. They got the ball back. They're gonna be able to do this. Like if they weren't gonna be able to do that, it would have been embarrassing against that team. That's all I really gotta say.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
I could say a
It's
little bit more.
you could. Well, maybe you talk a little bit more about this next game.
Well, can I say it?
Can you say it?
No. Keep going, keep going. I'll wait till the
Okay.
end. I'll wait till the end.
Yeah, the Packers. Wow. What an absolute choke job that was on Saturday night. Up 21-3 going into the half. Everything was going Green Bay's way. The Bears could not move the football down the field. The Packers were just doing every single thing right on offense. You got the sense going into halftime things were maybe turning towards the Bears' way because the Packers missed that field goal before the half happens. But even then, in the third quarter, the Packers are still, despite not having anything going offensively, the Bears still couldn't do anything on the offensive side. They kept missing fourth down conversions. They couldn't make anything, couldn't throw the ball. Caleb Williams made some early mistakes. And then it felt like that punt return to end the third quarter was a little bit of a catalyst for Chicago to get back in this game. They get into field goal range, make it a score of 21-6 going into the fourth quarter. They then trail 21-9. They get the ball back. DeAndre Swift gets a touchdown to make it 21-16. Packers then respond. Matthew Golden scoring his first touchdown of the entire season, which was crazy to think about, puts the Packers up 11. Caleb Williams then on the next ensuing drive has a 4th and 8 throw that, was an incredible throw, on his like back foot, throwing it to, I think it was Odunze on the sideline to make that catch. Keeps the drive going. They get a touchdown later from Elimitus Zacchaeus to make it a field goal game. But the Packers in this game, Johnson, really just missed a lot of opportunities because that last touchdown, I should have mentioned, that they scored with Golden, they missed the extra point on that touchdown, so that kept it an 11-point game at the time. Zacchaeus scores the touchdown, they get the 2-point conversion, they make it a field goal game. They go back down the field, that being the Packers. They have a chance to kick a field goal to go up by 6. Brandon McManus misses the field goal. They still only have the lead by a field goal. And then it's DJ Moore once again burying the Packers. He scores the game-winning touchdown to put the Bears up 31-27. Packers had a shot at the end, but were not able to get the job done. And the Bears do it once again, Johnson, in the second half. They pull off a stunning come from behind win and beat the Packers 31-27. 25 fourth quarter points for Chicago in that fourth quarter. And now they move on to host another playoff game in the divisional round.
All-time collapse? Like, where's this
It's
rank?
up
This has to
there.
be top 5.
I mean, the Packers, unfortunately, they've been used to this for the last couple of years. This was shades of Seattle in a way.
Do you
If
think
you
they
remember
win this
from that
game
NFC
for Aaron
Championship
Rodgers?
game.
I'm going to say, do you think they win the game for Aaron Rodgers?
It was not Jordan Love's fault that they lost this game.
I know it's not Jordan Love's fault, but it's kind of funny because the guy had 4 touchdowns. He
No,
played
Jordan
almost
Love. Jordan
flawlessly.
Love was
He had
nowhere.
one of the great playoff performances, and
They couldn't run the
his
ball in the
defense
second
failed
half.
him. Yeah,
And the defense,
mean,
yeah, you're right. The defense was horrible in the second half too. I don't know
they
what
failed
happened.
him.
Yeah,
It's definitely not on him. But I do want to say this is kind of funny that you have to at least ask the question because maybe at the end there, if you just had Aaron Rodgers, like yada yada yada, but it's not. No, it's not Jordan Love's fault. There's nothing he could have done.
yeah. It's Rodgers would not have won that game. I think Monday night was testament to that happening. That wasn't also completely Rodgers' fault on Monday night. We'll break that down later. But Jordan Love was not the reason the Packers lost this game. They couldn't run the ball in the second half. I think they had maybe like 1 or 2 rushing yards total in the second half as a team. But their defense, we saw it once Micah Parsons went down. This defense was already struggling before he got injured, and they struggled even more after he got injured. So, yeah, they've got a long offseason because Matt LaFleur has, I think, a year left on his contract. So we'll see what his future entails. I think the only good side for Green Bay is that at least Love is the guy for them. They have a quarterback, but they need to figure out something very sooner rather than later because they don't want to close that window just so soon with this roster. But congrats to the Bears. They once again prove everyone wrong, and whatever devil magic they got going right now, it just continues to work, I guess, for this team.
Yeah, they've certainly proved me wrong these last couple of weeks. I am certainly eating my words.
Yeah.
But hey, speaking of eating my words, Bills won.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I mean,
not off to a great start.
no, it was not the best start to your wild card weekend. I could definitely test that for you. But this is another great game. I mean, Josh Allen, with a nice first half, did get a little bit roughed up in that first half too. I think he was evaluated for a concussion. Then he got evaluated for I think his hand on one of his throws had a helmet. He then got evaluated for a leg injury after he got the rushing touchdown, the only touchdown of the first half of the Bills. But he had to fight through these injuries in this game because it was a dogfight between them and Jacksonville. Uh, really, this game got hot in the fourth quarter. That's really where the story came down to it for these two teams. They were both going back and forth, as I mentioned. That was pretty much the theme for most of this wild card weekend. Dalton Kincaid, Parker Washington get touchdowns to start the fourth quarter. ETN scores a touchdown with 4 minutes left to put the Jaguars up 4. But then it's Josh Allen with I think it was on 4th and 1. They go with a QB push. He gets like 10 yards on the play to get the first down to set up 1st and goal at the 1. He gets another QB push to get himself into the end zone for the touchdown. The Jaguars on the ensuing drive, it's Trevor Lawrence throwing an interception. And that's it for Jacksonville. A magical season for them ends in a 27-24 loss to Buffalo. I believe the Bills' first road playoff win, and I have to look it up. I think it was since 1992. I'd have to double check that. It had been a while since they won a road playoff game, but besides the fact, Johnson, they got the job done, and now they are moving on to take on the Denver Broncos in the divisional round.
This was the quarterback's fault. This I will stand
Yeah,
on. Say
Trevor
this was Trevor Lawrence's
Lawrence
fault.
was up and down in this game. He was very up and down. 1993 was the last time they won on the road. That was the AFC Championship game, Buffalo.
Yeah, and Buffalo was the they weren't the betting favorite in this game to end. They start. I know we caught the line early when
It
they
was a
were,
pick
and
'em
they
going
flipped
into
it.
the entire week.
Yeah, it was depending on what time of day you went, it was you didn't know who you were gonna get. So all I gotta say is James Cook had a great game and carried the Bills to victory. No, just kidding. It was the exact opposite. James Cook got absolutely smothered this game. Like
Yeah, I
I
mean
couldn't
the
believe
Jaguars had the
that
number
the
one rush defense in the NFL, so it made sense.
yeah, and listen, it's happened throughout history. If the number one rusher versus number one rush defense, the defense always wins. There's yet to been a case where it's opposite.
Yeah, yeah, and I think Jacksonville is in a spot where they're going to be a team to be looked at in the next couple of years. Trevor Lawrence obviously had a fantastic second half of the season for Jacksonville, which is something to at least be looked good at. He definitely had some bad moments in this game. The two interceptions, of course, the one that lost the game at the end. But it just shows the playoff experience also for these two teams because Buffalo's just been here so many years now. Jacksonville hadn't been here in a couple of years since I think that what was it that obviously that Chargers collapsed a couple of years ago with 27-0, and then they lost. I think to the Chiefs the
Oh
week
yeah, it's
after.
been a while. Yeah.
So it's been a little bit of time since Jacksonville's been back here, but the way they played in this game, they're probably going to be a team that will more than likely be in the postseason contention for years and years to come. Liam Cohen did a great job his first year at the helm, but Josh Allen and company, we talked about it last week, Johnson. If there was ever a year for them to get to the Super Bowl, this is the year potentially to do so.
Yeah,
And
we've said it a million times. There's no Chiefs. There's no
no
Lamar
Baltimore,
Jackson.
no Joe Burrow.
No Joe Burrow. This is
him.
it.
Yeah, yeah. This has got to be the time for Josh Allen to do what he had to do. And if not for Josh Allen, they don't win this game. Josh Allen was the reason that they win this matchup against Jacksonville on the road. So a big win for the Bills. They get their first playoff road win in 33 years. It's a crazy thing. It's been that long for Buffalo to get the job done. Then Johnson, oh, you can tell by the sound of my voice. How about our next game? San Francisco goes on the road into Philadelphia and knocks the Eagles out of the playoffs in another thrilling game, 23-19 the final. And the story of this game, Johnson, has been the story of the season for the Eagles. Their second half offense just completely, once again, abysmal. Bad play calling, couldn't move the ball. They really were running the ball efficiently with Saquon Barkley for most of this game, and it just felt like they stopped going to the run in the second half, it felt like, for the most part. A.J. Brown had some big drops when he was trying to get the ball. Had
Future
that big,
Patriot.
could be a future Patriot. That definitely might be the case. Had that big, exchange with Sirianni before halftime. Brock Purdy had some mistakes, don't get me wrong, in this game, but he made some big throws when needed the
Man,
most, especially after George Kittle got injured. Demarcus Robinson, a big showing for him in this game. Christian McCaffrey did just enough on the receiving side of things to get the job done. The Niners, despite all these injury shots, and they're moving on to the divisional round. Another matchup with Seattle. They won't have George Kittle, unfortunately, for the remainder of the season, but they got the win.
yeah, without no George Kittle, and I do really feel bad for him, but Jake Tongas, he's a really good
He's not a
tight
bad
end.
tight end. Yeah, he's not
No,
bad.
he has been fantastic. He's really stepped up, and another guy undrafted. It's almost
Yeah.
like a diamond in the rough. Like he had a really big game against the Bears a couple weeks ago, and when he's gotten time when George Kittle hasn't played, he stepped up, and this was certainly part of it. I felt that Brock Purdy was trying to do everything in his power so they wouldn't win this game. But despite that all happening, CMC had a great game. You had wideouts doing their jobs, Jawan Jennings doing his job. Everyone just kind of contributing. And this was a team win. This was a team win, and this team might add Fred Warner next week. He's rumored to come
It's
back to practice.
he's
It's nothing
already ruled
confirmed
out,
yet.
unfortunately, so it won't be this week.
Oh, come on. I saw that he was getting ready to go back to
Yeah,
practice.
I think they announced it
They
a
just
couple
did
hours
it?
ago. Yeah, it was just a couple hours ago today.
Unbelievable.
So he
I just
won't
talked
be
myself
there.
into it.
Yeah, yeah. he could be there for the NFC Championship game, so that's at least something good to note. He could be back for that game
Now,
if they
all you
get
gotta do
there.
is go on the road and beat Seattle. Spoiler alert. Not
And they
really.
did it earlier in the regular season, but they had a lot more players at the beginning of the regular season. That's the only issue. But um, yeah, I think the only thing that sucked for me in this game, the Eagles obviously was fantastic that they lost this game for me, but they demoted Kevin Patullo from offensive coordinator, so they're looking for I think their sixth different offensive coordinator in 6 years.
And 11 different offensive coordinators for Jalen Hurts in 11 years.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually going to mention that too.
Where is the
I didn't.
consistency?
Yeah, I cannot believe
He's
that
getting
he's been looking for
sabotaged.
that.
He's getting sabotaged.
Well,
He really is.
yeah,
No, listen. Every great player needs a strong coach. Every Brady needs Belichick. Every Michael Jordan needs Phil Jackson. I'm not saying that he's Brady or Phil or Michael Jordan, not even close. However, you think if Eli didn't have that consistency, Nick, you think he'd win those Super Bowls? Like, you think he was learning a different offense every single year since he's pretty much college, since high school? You think he'd be a consistent winner? You think he
maybe.
would be successful? You think Big Ben, if the Steelers were to had all these different coaching changes and all these different coordinators every year, you think he would be successful? I don't think so. I really do think that having these guys have all these different coordinators year after year after year, it does stunt their development. Even when they are seasoned professionals, it's not great. It's not optimal because they're still learning something new every single year. This guy hasn't had a back-to-back season of the same plays in a decade. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It's just an incredible I couldn't believe that it's been that long. Need a different coordinator at both Oklahoma and Alabama, and now going to the NFL, it's been every single year since he's had to get a new one. It's kind of incredible. Something that you don't really hear very often. So we'll see who the new offensive coordinator will be this upcoming season. At least Patullo gets to keep a job there, which he probably shouldn't. But yeah. Um, so we'll see. We'll see what happens for that from there for Philadelphia. And I did mention that the first couple games of the wild card round were good. It's no offense to your Patriots, Johnson. You guys got the job done, but this game was a stinker because Justin Herbert was getting
It was
killed out there
boring.
by New England.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's got no offensive line, and we don't really have to go in this game. Patriots win 16-3. Justin Herbert puts up a goose egg. No offensive touchdowns. And hey, to all you Hunter Henry first touchdown scorers,
Yeah, you were.
congratulations. You cashed in the fourth quarter. So there's not much to say about this game. Patriots survived. Defense looked good. Drake May recovered from a horrific first half. That second half, he looked great. I don't know
Yeah.
if Mike Vrabel did in that locker room, but he really got his confidence back. And the Chargers have a decent defense too. It's not like they have the worst defense in the world. They have a
No, no,
decent
no.
defense, and it's more so. Questions on them is they fire their OC. Roman is gone. He's no longer going to be there.
Yes, that was a big.
And,
They had to get rid of him
and Justin Herbert, get him an offensive line. And people say,
desperately.
"Oh yeah, he's if man, whatever." No, get him an offensive line, please. You can't have three guys. No offense. If you have if you're center, if you play center or right guard or right tackle or whatever, if there are 32 teams in the NFL and if you're ranked below 32, I'm sorry, that's just unacceptable. If you have one of those guys on your offensive line because of injury, like they had this year, whatever. When you have 3/5 of your offensive line, the very worst in other teams' backups, unacceptable. You're asking for this guy to become the next Andrew Luck. That's what you're really asking for.
No, I think what's some of the stats about this game. It's really comes down to this. It's been like this
They
for the
had 30
Chargers.
pressures.
It's been
30
like this for the
pressures in a
Chargers
game.
since what week 5. I think that's when Joe Alt got injured.
I would say since week 1 because they hadn't
They haven't had
Rashawn
Slater,
Slater
but
all
they
year.
at least had Joe Alt on the other side.
Yeah,
Losing both
yeah.
tackles hurts you. And it was funny because like I remember someone bringing up the offensive line in this game, and how bad they've been. And I remembered how someone brought up the fact that Joe Burrow, when they went to the Super Bowl back in what was that 2020 2021, how his offensive line was literally just as bad as that offensive line, which is kind of crazy to think about. Looking at PFF rankings, and then you look at it like this too. I think the funniest stat I saw about this was Jawan Jennings. who threw that touchdown on McCaffrey, having more
Yeah,
air
yeah,
yards than both
yeah.
Hurts and Herbert combined, which is funny. You have to admit it as a funny stat. Don't forget, Tim Tebow has more playoff wins than Justin Herbert.
I mean, this is true.
Yeah. We'll see if the Chargers hire for an OC, but you're right. They needed some offensive line help. They could really use a number one wide receiver, in my opinion, too. Like, I like Lyle McConkey, but I don't consider him like that, boundary wide receiver one, if that makes sense. Like, I think they need like a true number one. And he also had a lot of big drops this season, too, which didn't help. But the defense you mentioned is good on paper. They have something there. So the problem is going to be how much longer do you have Khalil Mack for? Because he's probably closer to
He's got a
retirement.
year or two left.
Yeah, so that's something that they will have to find to fix. Um, was there really any concerns on New England's part for you other than that?
Nope.
I
Just
know. Yeah, just moving
keep on
on.
going.
Yeah,
Just move on.
yeah. I got another tough matchup coming up for you because we'll break down your matchup in just a few short moments. Because your matchup will be the Houston Texans. Yeah, that was a game on Monday night between Houston and Pittsburgh. 7-6 going into halftime. CJ Stroud having trouble holding on to the football. I think it was 5 fumbles he had in this game. He recovered 3 of them, lost 2 of them. He threw an interception. And despite all that, Johnson, the Steelers could not take advantage of what was going on. They scored just 2 field goals, did not score in the second half of this game. Aaron Rodgers' potential final pass as a Steeler or as just an NFL quarterback in general was a pick six. It's a 36 win for the Texans in this game. They move on to take on your Patriots in the divisional round, and it led to a lot of big ripple effects in this game. The last time this, I gotta bring this up because the Steelers I don't remember lost on Monday Night Football. I think that was since what nine. I think that might have been 1992 or 93. I don't remember. Some of the things that happened the last time the Steelers lost on Monday Night Football. The Soviet Union was still existed. Terminator 2 was the number one movie at the box office. The Funky Good Vibrations by Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch was the number one song. And Chuck Noll was still the Steelers head coach at the time. And let me see, is there anything else I missed?
Sounds like
Oh,
they haven't lost since the Clinton administration. Is what
Yugoslavia
you're
was still in
talking
the
to me.
process of a collapse.
Yeah, so they haven't lost since the Clinton administration or the Bush administration. Bush won
Yes.
that.
And something that also from this game, the Steelers with that loss now have lost 7 straight playoff games. They haven't won a playoff game since Barack Obama was the president of the United States. So it's been
Yep,
a
that one
very
I do
long
know.
time since they've won. And the other stat I saw too, the only players in NFL history to have 5 fumbles in a game and win are CJ Stroud in that game and Eli Manning back in week 16 of 2007. If I'm not mistaken, that might have been either I think that was a game at Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember if that was the Bills game they had the week prior when they clinched the playoff spot. It might have been. But I think the big and I forgot too. There's been 28 different head coaches since Mike Tomlin's last playoff win. So that's another
Yeah.
problem.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest news, of course, Johnson, from this game, it was what happened after this game. And speaking of Mike Tomlin, he is stepping down as the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. He'd been coaching there since 2007, so 19 years at the helm for Pittsburgh. The Steelers will now have to look for their first head coach in over almost 2 decades. And it's funny enough, this is this is going to just be their 4th head coach that they're going to be looking for since the Beatles broke up, if you think about that, since 1969. The longest tenured head coach now in the NFL is Andy Reid. I know that's a stat you really don't want to hear. There have been more Catholic popes elected than Steeler head coaches since 1969. What other stats do I have? The first iPhone came out 5 months after Tomlin was hired. That's about it. That's all the fun stats I have for this. But yeah, what did you think about this move for Mike Tomlin?
I mean, it's a long time coming. They needed a step they need a new direction.
He was burned out at the end.
He's burnt out. He wants nothing to do with him. He's a great all-time head coach. He'll do media for a year, and maybe he'll be somewhere else a year from now.
I don't know. I could see
he's gonna do media for a year.
I could see it being a long-term thing for him being media. I could see it being
Think
long term,
so?
but
He's not
yeah,
old.
no, he's not. He's not. I don't know how much more coaching he really wants to do.
I
Maybe the
mean,
year off
if he
could help
wants, he
him.
could probably coach another decade somewhere else, like
Oh yeah,
easily.
no question, easily, no question. There are teams now that obviously with the openings they have, they're trying to poach him away. But I just don't think he's ready to coach right now. I think he wants to take the year off, as you mentioned, and then maybe he'll reevaluate it in a year afterwards. Do you think also with that is this Aaron Rodgers' last game in the NFL?
No, I think he'll come back for one more season. I don't know where, but I think he's not done. The
It will
only
not be in
reason
Pittsburgh.
why it will not be in Pittsburgh, but Aaron Rodgers is very close to breaking a couple of passing records, a couple of
Yeah,
playoff touchdown records.
I
I still feel like he has a little bit left in the tank here.
I think I'm with you on your narrative that you and I have been talking about off the air. I could see him being a Viking next season. I know we were talking about that being a funny narrative with the whole Brett Favre arc, but I think it's a really strong chance that could happen because they haven't really been sold on JJ McCarthy or Nine, if you want to call him that. They haven't been sold on him, and
And here's
the end of
here's
the
the
year
other thing
press
too.
conference they said it too. So Rogers could be a
If the
possibility there.
Matt Stafford, nothing, he's having a great year. He still has a lot left in the tank. Obviously, he might win the MVP this year. He's
There's a
one injury
strong
away. He's one injury away from never playing football again.
there's a
If
strong
he
chance
gets,
if they win the Super Bowl this year that he could retire. Stafford.
yeah. And I think, you know what? Stafford is right behind him in passing yards. So I think Aaron Rodgers is going to try to starve that off as long as possible.
Yeah, I don't see
So,
this being his last game. Um, it's definitely with the Steelers because Tomlin was the only reason he got to Pittsburgh. Like that was the only reason why he signed with Pittsburgh. So it definitely is his last game with the Steelers. I don't know where they go from here at quarterback next season, whether it's Will Howard or Mason Rudolph or someone that they
because
sign or
he's
draft.
still a competent game manager. He's still a
Yeah,
competent game manager. And I think that if he goes to Minnesota, he'll have Justin Jefferson there. He still has, juice left in that arm.
I would say have Jordan Addison, but he's still dealing with some off the field issues, which
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, let's say something too about that. But anyway, that wasn't the only coach news we had this past week in Johnson because of what happened with Baltimore the week prior with John Harbaugh. We had heard that there was a team that hadn't fired a head coach yet that was maybe looking at maybe bringing Harbaugh there. I'm not sure if it was this team, but it might have been potentially. Mike McDaniel from the Miami Dolphins getting fired as the head coach, so he'll be a hot commodity, of course, with the offensive coordinators jobs that are opening. I think Philadelphia has been interviewing him. Detroit's been interviewing him to note a couple teams. So he'll be a guy that will get a not a head coaching job, but he'll get an offensive coordinator job relatively soon. I wouldn't mind him as the Giants OC, but I think Todd Monken has already been hired as the OC. That's probably spoil. That's obviously spoiling what I'll be breaking down in just a few short moments. But yeah, McDaniel fired as the Dolphins head coach. We'll see where they go from here then. That led us to 9 head coaching openings after the Steelers and the Dolphins being opening out after the week prior. We had 7, but it then went down to 8 last night, Johnson, because we had our first head coach hiring, and that was John Harbaugh as being hired as the new Giants head coach. I know I've been on here on the air expressing that Harbaugh should be fired with the Ravens, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't want him as the Giants head coach because even though he's blown a lot of double digit leads over the years past, he's a guy that's been a winner in the NFL. He's obviously won a Super Bowl as a head coach too. And I just want some stability at that position. So I was very happy to hear that this did happen late last night.
Now, here's the question. If you got Tomlin, let's say you got Tomlin instead of Harbaugh, would you have been happy with him too?
I would have been
Obviously, I know
fine with
you're
either of
static
them.
with. Okay. Uh, so
Stefanski,
what's
I
the
would have been fine with
expectation?
too.
What's the expectations for next year?
I'm not gonna say there's big expectations yet because they have a big offseason coming where they have guys like Bobby Okereke and Wandale Robinson to look at
If
for maybe,
I'm gonna give you a
for
scenario,
spending
right?
money. Yep, go ahead.
You win 9 games, miss the playoffs. How do you feel? End of
I'm
next year.
perfectly fine with that. I
Okay.
just
Same thing happens the year
I
after
want
that. How do you feel?
I'm willing to give him time because we
Okay.
have to first see if, Munkin, who's probably gonna be the offensive coordinator, can develop Jackson Dart into what everyone believes he could potentially be. He's the type of quarterback that will probably fit that system, which works as well. So I'm like I said, this team has made the playoffs once since what was it, 2015 or 2016.
Yep. Since
It's
the
been
bull
a
pitcher.
disaster. So if they miss the playoffs the next 2 seasons, winning 9 games, that's not the worst thing. As long as is there some progression with this roster, you know, we're seeing them making big moves to improve the roster. Dart takes another step into being a potential big time quarterback. That's all you really can ask for at the end of the day. So I just want to see some winning football. That's what it comes down to. This team's winning 4 or 5 games every single season the last 5 to 10 years. So I just want to see this team try to win, not try to win when they're trying to tank and then they blow. They ruin their draft pick. I want to see them try to win and either make a playoff spot as a wild card or maybe compete with the AFCs. Because keep in mind, in my opinion, you look at the rest of the division, it's really a toss up right now because I don't really feel like there's a dominant team right now. The Eagles, they might be in for an interesting offseason because you mentioned AJ Brown. He might be getting traded. Who knows where they're going to go? Dallas has been really bad defensively this past season. So unless they fix their defense, they're going to be in a lot of shootouts where they're not going to win every game. And Washington's coming off a year where Jaden Daniels got injured so many times. So it's like, who knows where he's going to be, what his status is going to be next season. So if there was ever a time for you to get progression from your team and have a guy come in and try to change the culture, the time probably is now for them to do so. So I was very happy this did go down because I was expecting them to miss out on the opportunity because it looked like all signs were leading him there, and then he left to go back home, and I was like, well, there it is. The Giants had the guy in the building; they didn't get the contract done. He might now second guess and maybe go to Atlanta because he had some ties with the Falcons because he had mutual respect between him and Matt Ryan. So I was worried about that, but I guess the Giants got their guy. That was the guy they wanted from the opening get go once he got fired by Baltimore. So hopefully it works out for New York. I would like to be in the playoff picture in the next couple of years, hopefully, like you are right now with your New England Patriots. And speaking of your Patriots, Johnson, let's go into the mushing hour for the NFL divisional round, and we'll start it off on Saturday. A big matchup in Denver, Colorado. It is the number 6 seeded Buffalo Bills going on the road to take on the number 1 seed Denver Broncos in the Mile High City. I'm trying to get the lines for this one, and here it is. Denver is a 1.5 point favorite, 45.5 the over under.
It's Bills plus 1.5. This is an easy pick. Bo Nix is not that good. He had more than 100 pass attempts. He had more than 100 pass attempts than Matthew Stafford and Drake May, and didn't even come close to all of their categories. He's a chucker. Their run game's shaky at best, and the Bills have already won on the road. So, and now they can play in a stadium which temperature wise they're familiar with, conditions they're familiar with. I know it's a lot higher up, but give me the Bills.
I look at this game like I looked at it like last week, where you look at the quarterbacks, obviously, the Bills have the significant advantage in that game, in my opinion. Bonix is fine, but he's not a game changer like that, where I feel like he's on the same category as Trevor Lawrence in a way. And I'm worried that Nix is going to make at the same mistakes that Trevor Lawrence made in that matchup that the Bills had. And obviously, the Bills are facing now, they went from facing the number 1 rush defense at Jacksonville to now facing the number 2 rush defense in Denver. So they're going to have another tough game trying to run the football. Um, Josh Allen is probably going to have to do it himself again to try to get the job done. If that's the case, I would rather have faith in Buffalo getting the job done on the road, and that being said, despite Denver having such a stout defense. So I'll also be with the Bills plus 1.5. I mentioned it last week also. I said the winner of Buffalo and Jacksonville, in my opinion, was going to make the Super Bowl. So I'm not going to steer away from that pick. I'm going to stay with the Bills plus 1.5 in the Mile High City. What's our next game?
All right, Nick, to go into our next game, we have the San Francisco 49ers going into Seattle to take on the Seahawks, which the Seahawks are a 7 point favorite at home, and the over under slated at 44.5. This is disrespectful. Give me 49ers plus 7. There's not they're going to cover this. Not a chance they don't.
Yeah, I mean, they were a 5.5 point underdog last week at Philly. And keep in mind that we had an injury going into today too. Sam Darnold has an oblique injury that he suffered
I'm
in
glad you
practice
mentioned
today.
that.
He's gonna play on He's gonna play on Saturday, but that's something to note. If he potentially re-injures that on Saturday night, that could be a big backbreaker for Seattle because I think their backup is Jalen Milroe, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So the Niners, I get it. They've lost so much on both sides of the football, but I agree with you. I think it's just a disrespectful line for a team that's gotten to this point in the season. I'll take them plus the 7 as well on the road. I think Seattle's going to win the game, but I would not be surprised if San Francisco, you know, keeps it close and maybe they pull out a stunner. They're going to need Christian McCaffrey to have a monster game, in my opinion, because he didn't really do anything in the last time that these two teams met back in Week 17. He's going to have a big time game on the road to give San Francisco any hope of moving on to the NFC Championship game. Then our next game, Johnson. I know you're looking forward to this one. Texans at the Patriots. Patriots minus 3.5, 40.5 the over under.
Patriots minus 3.5. Like I'm not even gonna. I don't have to explain this. Give me Patriots minus three and a
Are
half.
you worried about the Texans defense?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
Oh,
not. Not at all.
okay.
We've played tough defenses.
You have. Yeah, you just did against the
We've played
Chargers.
multiple top 10 defenses.
No,
It's
I
fine.
agree.
We'll be okay.
I think the best thing going for you in this game is if CJ Stroud makes the same mistakes that he did against the Steelers, the Patriots are going to capitalize on it, not like Pittsburgh did. So I think that's definitely something you have going for you in this game. I'm a bit worried about the offensive line against this pass rush. I'll take the Texans plus 3.5. I don't know who wins this game. I think it's really a coin flip in my opinion between the two sides. But I'm just going to trust the. It's no offense to New England; they've had a good year defensively, but I just trust the Texans defense a little bit more in this matchup. Good pass rush, good secondary. I think they will give Drake May a tough battle to win this game, but it should be a good game between those two teams on Saturday in New England. So I'm looking forward to that matchup. And then Johnson, what's our final matchup?
We have the Rams going into Chicago to take on the Bears. The Bears are at home despite this. Rams are a 4-point favorite on the road. 48.5 is the
Hmm.
slate over under. Uh, Teams that play in domes in the postseason, when they go into an environment that is below 40 degrees, are 1-9 in the last 10 games. With that being said, give me Bears plus 4.
Now I had a stat about this game too. I know I've been
He's
reading up
a
a lot on
dome
tonight.
merchant. So that is
Where's
what
my
I'm going
Sean
with here.
McVay stat that I saw? Because this was a crazy stat. I don't know if you saw this either, Johnson, this past week. Here it is. With the Rams facing the Bears this weekend, did you know that this is Sean McVay's 15th career playoff game? It'll be his
I did not know that.
15th. It'll be his 15th different opponent in his 15th career playoff game. He's faced
No, I didn't know
15
that.
different
That is
teams.
kind of crazy. He has no true rival.
He has not
Huh.
played a single team. So if they win this game, it will be the championship game will be the first time he's played a similar opponent from years prior. So he's played every single NFC team. I think besides I think of course it's the Giants. I think it's the Giants are the only team that he hasn't played. Look at it now. It's the
Uh,
Giants
no, it's a
and the
couple because he
Commanders.
played the Patriots and he played the
Oh right,
the
the
Bengals.
AFC teams are on here too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I forgot about that too. Yeah, the Patriots and the Bengals. So Giants are on here. Commanders are on here. And then there's one more team I had to think. I'm trying
Packers.
to think. No, he played the Packers. Lions are there. The whole NFC North. It's gotta be. Oh, it's Cardinals. It's Cardinals.
That
No,
makes a lot of
Cardinals are there
sense.
too. Cardinals are there
No,
too. Also, wow.
I wouldn't know.
So it's someone. Is it the Saints? No, they're not the Saints. Process of elimination. I'll think about it. I'm obviously missing a team. I can't even think about who it is right now. It's not the Falcons either. Falcons, Saints, Bucks, and the Panthers. They just played. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what team I'm missing. Anyway, you have who do you have in this game? You said Bears plus 4.
Bears plus 4, easy pick.
See, I know what you're doing. Everyone knows what you're doing.
I didn't do
Um,
anything. I didn't do
I
anything at
know.
all.
I'm sure you did it. I'm sure you did it. I mean, on paper, the Rams are the better team. I I'm gonna pick the Bears plus 4. I think the Rams win this game by a field goal. You know it's they're gonna do it. The Bears have just had some weird magic I mentioned earlier on going on this entire season. It's been really fun to watch from my perspective. I know for you, I know you really haven't been a big supporter of the Bears this season, but it's been really fun to see what this team's been doing for the majority of the year. Ben Johnson's done a great job his first year at the helm. It's gonna be a really I think this is why I love this matchup this week too. It's because you have two great offensive minds in both Ben Johnson and Sean McVay. I could see this being a really high scoring game too. And in fact, I'm just talking myself into it. I'm going to take the Bears +4, and I'll take the over in this game too. I think it's going to be a really big time scoring game between these two teams in that matchup to end the divisional round. So, in my opinion, I think that's the game of the week. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think that's the game of the week for the divisional round.
All
I'm
right, and
sure. I'm sure your Texans Patriot matchup is probably the game of the week.
that it is for me, and I think that wraps up the bushing hour, Nick.
Same
And
Super Bowl picks, I'm assuming, right? For both of
yeah,
us. Yeah, they're
I'm
all
not
still there.
changing some Seahawks versus Bills, even though I'm picking the Niners this week.
Yeah.
I think the Niners will cover. I don't know if they
Yeah,
win,
I think
but
you still have
the
Seattle
Seahawks
win, but
versus
Niners
Bills.
cover. I feel the same way. I think the Niners cover and Seattle wins. I'm with you on that too. I just think there's so many injuries for San Francisco to overcome, and that defense from Seattle has been incredible this season. They just need Sam Darnold to not get injured or not turn into Sam Darnold of old. So that's really what it comes down to in that game. But yeah, that does it, Johnson. It's gonna be the last Super Show of the. Actually, no, technically, I think the second to last Super Show of the year because we'll recap the
We're
national
almost
championship
done.
game. Yeah, next week we'll recap the national championship game, and then we will recap the divisional round. So one more Super Show for us this year on the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Johnson, any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
Let's go New England. That's all I got.
Well, hopefully for your sake, you get a nice not wild card, divisional round weekend for you coming this Sunday for you, and then we'll see how the four matchup goes. And then Johnson, next week we have four teams left in the NFL postseason, so we're getting down to the final stages of this season. It's been an incredible year. That's been definitely something to be happy about for both college football and NFL. It's been a great year for both of those sports, and then
Absolutely.
be a little bit of time before after that we'll have to take a little bit of a break from football, and then we'll be looking towards the NFL draft in April and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, it'll be good to watch. Um, so we'll see what happens going into next week. So that's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. We now are heading in to the final stages of this football season. Monday night, we have the national championship game between number 10 Miami and number 1 Indiana. That game taking place at Hard Rock in Miami. Can the Hurricanes get the job done on their own home field, or can Indiana complete the incredible turnaround and get their first ever national championship? And then we go into this weekend with 4 divisional round games. It is the Bills and Broncos on Saturday, 49ers and Seahawks on Saturday night, and then it all rounds out on Sunday. Texans at the Patriots, Rams at the Bears on Sunday night. We'll recap those games as well as the national championship game next week here on the show, and then we'll give you our picks for the NFC and AFC conference championship games. For Nicholas Pavone and Andrew Johnson, this has been the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week.